Call to order the Thursday, August 4th, 2016 Plan Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Dolly.
Here.
Arnold. Absent. Shriver.
Here.
Gates is absent. Hanson.
Here.
Stein. Absent. Stonebarger.
Here.
McGuire and Albertson absent.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stonebarger, second by Mr. Dolly. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Second item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the July 21st, 2016 meeting. Motion by Mr. Dolly, second by Mr. Stonebarger. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Third item on the agenda is the vacation of a portion of 10th Avenue South between Block 8, Lot 2 of Paulson's Addition, and Lot 20, Block 2 of Southside Addition.
So Spies Corporation has petitioned to vacate 10th Avenue South between Paulson's Addition and Southside Addition. And on the map here is explaining Spies Corporation owns both properties, so they were the only ones that had to petition. And then here is the right-of-way that is being petitioned to be vacated.
Thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing if anyone's here to speak on behalf or against the vacation. How are you?
I'm good.
Will you bring us back? You and I were probably the only ones that were here, maybe Kenny, what was it, 10, 12 years ago? We had some things we were doing over in this area, but it was further west and south. Were you here then? We talked about what was going on with the property back there and how it was laid out years ago and had never really developed in the way that it was intended to. Give us a history lesson, would you?
History lesson is that that's mostly filled ground. I don't want to know what's under my building. I really don't.
Because it was, and there still is some wet areas over there too, correct?
And where Ed has got, where Spies has got that laid out, the farther south you get, the squishier it gets. And Watertown Monument Works used a lot of scrap granite to fill in a lot of that area back there. And I think as they're digging around trying to do the new cinema down there, I think they have come up with some pretty good sized chunks of stuff. But yeah, that's never been anything down there other than basically scrap ground.
What was the original intent? Were you guys around when it was originally platted?
I wasn't. Ed, were you?
Before your time even?
All I remember is my dad saying when he built the store down there, that was all marsh.
Yep.
It was all a marsh over there, because I know we talked about it, because it had been laid out, and we said, we don't really foresee that developing the way it looks on paper.
Well, we own that part south of the.
Ed, can you come on up, and that way you get to be on TV too?
Spice Corporation owns that directly south of those buildings, and that is all wetland in there, and we have no intention of doing with it. And we've, the Monument Works at one time would have partnered with us to fill it, but we opted not to. We've just left it.
And 10th Avenue doesn't cross across the highway. That's been vacated.
It's been vacated
And-
from 4th Street to 5th Street.
And 10th Avenue does go through just a little bit, half a block west of there, and then it also, it's street to nowhere.
And we have, that street goes nowhere. And on the 18th, don't we have an application pending to vacate that particular
And
portion?
that's the half a block to the
Correct, to the
east, right there.
I'm ready to jump in whenever you guys are.
Go ahead.
I would, go ahead.
So, do you have any other comments?
Not yet.
All right,
Well,
all
so
right,
do
let
you
me-
have
let me
any-
fill
then
in
I
some
may.
blanks.
He's on the clock.
So let me fill in some blanks here. Our research, the original plat in that region is called Paulson Addition. And I can't tell you the exact date that the Paulson Addition was done because the documents are that old and faded that we don't even, you can't even hardly read it. But there has been vacations throughout that region that date back into 1957. So other pieces of this initially started to be vacated back at that date. So that's pretty old. A couple other comments as far as the viability of 10th Avenue and its route. 10th Avenue does extend a half a block west of, this is 3rd Street. So it does extend a half block west, and there is officially still an alley that comes back out onto 212. Now, none of that has ever been improved. And originally on Paulson's addition, there was another half a block of the street that went west and then came up, and I think it about lined up with now what is the entrance into the shopping plaza area there. That was vacated. A portion of 10th Avenue over here was vacated, and now a portion of 4th Street South has been vacated. So my point being in all of this is that this was platted more than 50 years ago, and nothing has been developed that reflects how that plat was intended to go. And case in point is both of these buildings on either side of this portion of the 10th Avenue right-of-way, they were built with 0 setbacks. Now, they aren't occupied, they're storage units, so there's really not any life-threatening things there because nobody's gonna step out right onto a active roadway. But with that said, staff is recognizing that 10th Avenue is pretty much dysfunctional here. It is possible to build a 1-block segment of 10th Avenue, and that would be it. There isn't any way to bring it out onto 212 without rededicating right away. There's no place to take it to the west unless something's vacated or dedicated out here, and I don't see that happening. I mean, it would take something substantial to push this into a new development area. At this point, I do want to maintain 3rd Street South and 4th Street South and then connect them to the south someday, if that's feasible.
Are there utilities in that?
Yes, that's where I was going next. Okay, so with that said, if we do approve this vacation request, and ultimately the second vacation request as well, we've visited with the utilities. I know that Vast has a utility across the north portion of this right-of-way. The municipal utilities has a water main, a gas main, and an overhead electric line in the lower half of the right-of-way. So essentially, we're recommending that if this vacation goes forward, that at this time, we retain an easement over the entire area to be vacated. And if for some reason in the future there's a way to reduce that vacation, we would do that in a separate process at some other point. But right now, there's enough utilities in there that indicates to me that it's important that we maintain the corridor for utilities, but not necessarily improve it to be a transportation route. So with that said, and what the vacation will do is allow them to build closer to these lot lines and use that as part of their setbacks. So there is an advantage to vacating, but there's also a need to retain utility easement. So with that, I guess I'll open it back to whoever has questions or if there's other information that somebody wants to provide, that's fine.
May I chip in?
Thank you. Yep, go right ahead.
I went down and looked this afternoon. This is as close to a wetland as you can get, but the utility line comes across the vacated portion of 10th Avenue, it comes this direction, and then it cuts straight south into Forsberg, or Concrete Dakota's property. I didn't see it going all the way through. I don't know how in the hell it could go all the way through, because it's nothing but trees. If Vast has got something in there, I don't know how they laid it, because that is just pretty much a tree belt and a mark.
Yep.
Well, plus there's that big canal there.
Yep, it's canal back, the drainage area.
The maps that were provided to me does verify that the utility company owns the 3 utilities that I stated, and the map from VAST also supports that. Do you have those?
Mark, you got something on it?
I think she has the drawing.
Mark Meyer, Watertown Utilities. I provided some maps. We have a water main that would be 10 foot south of the center line of the road where it would be if the road was developed. And we also have a 4-inch gas main that would be in the south boulevard someday if the road was ever built. So.
Those are in there now,
It's
Mark?
in the street right away.
Those are in there already?
Yes. And in fact, the part of 10th that got vacated for Hardee's, we retained the south half, 30 feet of that road right away at that time for an easement, because everything of ours is on the south side of the center line of where 10th would have been.
Is that the same thing for Mid-Continent then too, or you don't know? Or?
Well, I went down there and there's a vast Mid-Continent and I think CenturyLink pedestals. Right there, I provided a picture to them.
So
And
is
that
that
would be on the very east edge of what they're wanting to vacate.
On the north-south or side?
That's on the north side right there. And plus that storm sewer control structures there.
Okay, that structure's on the red hashed portion and not on the yellow.
Right where the alley would be going north and south, right above where the hand is, yep, right there.
Right where the hand is.
All right, thank you. Anyone else speak in the open? All right, close. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Ask for a motion and a second for discussion.
I'd make a motion that we vacate this half a block with the maintaining a utility easement.
Motion by Mr. Stonebarger. Second by Mr. Arnold. Any other discussion on it? Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any old business?
No, well, just for
ahead.
clarification to finish up this one, there will be the second petition to consider at our next meeting then. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Same discussion, just a different portion.
Okay.
If
Thanks.
we'd have known this was going on, we'd have included the whole thing in one get.
Not a problem. We're here anyway. They used to feed us. They don't even feed us anymore. Any old business, Brandy?
No.
New business? Yes.
This is just asking for the planning commission to do a clarification on the use. I suppose if you guys read the paper on Tuesday or something like that, you saw that the public opinion is possibly up for sale. The public opinion is currently in the I-1 Industrial District. They are being questioned by the proposed buyer's attorneys as to what's going on there. And it's a non-conforming building by setbacks because it's closer, it's in the I-1, so it's closer than the required setbacks. I think part of the thing they're worried about is if something would ever happen to the building, it'd get hurt or destroyed or something like that. But a non-conforming building can be rebuilt as it is, as long as the contents isn't made any bigger or larger, and it goes back to the exact same square footage, as long as it started within 6 months periods. So that really is not an issue.
And that's a policy, an internal policy of your department?
That is an ordinance.
Okay, so we have an ordinance that says as long as it's less than 60%.
It's actually 210406. If any non-conforming building is destroyed or damaged by any casualty or raised to comply with the FEMA regulations, such a building may be repaired or replaced and its use continued, providing said reconstruction shall not add to the nonconformity or add to the cubic contents of said building, and as the same existed at the time of such casualty, and provided further that such repair or reconstruction of such building shall begin within 6 months after such casualty and completed within a reasonable time thereafter. So that issue is not an issue. The other issue then is the use. And this is I-1, and as 3 or 4 of us dug through the thing today, and it's I-1 is actually light manufacturing. It doesn't specify
The word newspaper.
or whatever. But when you read the definition of what light manufacturing is and you read the intent of what the I-1 zone is, we feel that it is light manufacturing. I mean, if whether it's a book or a paper or cardboard, we have a cardboard plant out there in I-2, and we have a printing process in I-1. we think that complies with the I-1 requirement, so. We're just looking for a confirmation or denial from the plan commission that they also agree with that. So we can write a letter to the other company and say that the use is fine, and the building can be rebuilt under these circumstances.
So in a nutshell, they were concerned about purchasing the property for the fear that it couldn't be
Their
rebuilt.
attorneys, yep, are just wanting a little clarification of what's
Th-
going on. there.
This is just a letter explaining our current ordinance as you just explained it.
Their due diligence, yep.
And you need us to say, we agree with you?
Or disagree, whatever the case may be.
You guys agree with him? I don't have a problem. We don't have any, looks like we unanimously don't have a problem.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other new business, executive session? Need a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Dolly, second by Mr. Stonebarger. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Adjourn.